Hello to the brave ones, the ones that are still here at the very end of the Odoo experience. Indeed, this will be the very last talk of the day, the very last talk of this edition of the Odoo experience. And as we usually say, we keep and we save the best for the last. I want to also say hello to the one in the very end of the room because I know that you are still still sleeping. But I think about you as well during this talk. So here, I want to discover with you like the tips and tricks that are coming with the Odoo 19 version of the tool. And for that, what I want to do is to make some demo and some practicing all together and see how it can be applied in practice. While I'm speaking, of course, you may have some questions or you may want to discover and to discuss more precise topic. So for that, you can scan the QR code. I mean, you probably know that already. And write down your question on the pad. That once, we are coming at the end of the question, at the end of the session, then we can discuss that together. If you don't have time to scan it, don't worry, it will be displayed as well at the very end of the talk. Okay, so if you are here today, I guess that you all know Odoo, right? I see people saying yes in the room, so let me present you with something else. Let me present you with UPO, International SV, which has a 20 years expertise in implementing ERP. We are really proud of that. Like, this is such an achievement for us to have such a, let's say, longevity on the market. And what we do is pretty simple. We just start from a very unhappy customer because he has a very suited ERP that works very well, no need to integration, very cheap as well. But that's something that we don't like. And what we do is that we decide to make it back to the Stone Age. You know, like everything is done manually. We don't want any computer anymore. What we want is to really stick to what we did maybe 1,000 years ago. And actually, we have a pretty nice rating in my company, like 5 stars rating, and it has nothing to do with the fact that my customers don't have internet anymore. But at least what we have is that it's very, very nice company. So today, oh, wait. It seems that I just received a message. What is that? Oh, okay. Apparently, we just received a negative feedback. That's something that I don't know about. So, you know what? Let's switch my talk to something else. Let's investigate unhappy ratings in Odoo 19. I think this topic will be way more interesting. The question that we want to answer is, why would a customer be disappointed? And in order to answer this question, what we are going to do is that we are going to dive in a database using tips and tricks only. Ready for that? Then we can go. So here I am on my database. I'm going to use something first that is very, very important, so that maybe some of you don't know if you discover Odoo, or if you use it for a very short period of time, but you have a search bar in Odoo. So here, what I want to do is to find my rating. And I know that I get rating on my help desk ticket. So if I just type help desk with my keyboard, or at least I should. Let me try again. Oh. I don't know why it's not working. Okay, cool. I know, Odoo is a bit sleeping as well. So here, if I type help desk as well in my search bar, I can directly open all of my menus in my database. You see that I have a slash at the very beginning of my keyboard here, which is just showing me that this is the way to look for something here on my command palette. So here what I can do then is to tap a slash and go for my help desk application. I click on enter and I arrive here. Then what I can do is to click on my Alt button to display all the different shortcuts that I have on my screen. And one of them here are the digits that allow me to open one specific menu. And I click on the button 2, and here I open all my tickets by moving with the arrow. Perfect, here I am. What I will do is that I will remove my filter by clicking on delete, and there I can display all the tickets that I have in my database. Something new in Odoo 19 is the fact that now I can group by my tickets, like maybe by customer, for example, and then decide to sort it by clicking on the group by. Boom. That's a very huge improvement in the database. So if I do it now, then I get like to see that Richard Fernandez is actually my biggest ticket creator. And yes, if I just unfold it, I will see that apparently most of the time he gets some positive rating, as I can see on the right. But for one of them, for my pen is not working, please help, it just provided a negative rating. Okay, let's open it and see what we have inside. Okay, so I try to write again and again, but nothing happens. If I move to the chatter, okay, so Colonel Mustard was actually the employee who took care of this ticket, and he seems to have provided a new ink capsule, but still the problem is not solved, because apparently the customer is unhappy. Okay, let's try to look at this rating and see what happens. Here I am in my application, so if I try to type something with my keyboard, nothing will happen. But then I can do another shortcut, which is CTRL+K, to open my command palette from anywhere in my database. Here I see at the bottom in the tips that I can do a slash to access menus, I can make an @ to open a conversation, or I can put a question mark to open my articles in my knowledge application. Here, same, I just want to access my ratings in my database, here in my help desk. Very good. So I have indeed a negative feedback from Colonel Mustard. What I can do is just to decide to export those data, maybe, and send them to one of my colleagues for further investigation. For that, now in Odoo 19, we can select record in the Kanban view. So if I put an Alt, if I click on Alt and then go to a record, with my mouse, I can select it. Once I enter my selection mode, I can directly select all of my tickets without having to click on Alt anymore. And finally, I can click on Actions and export my data directly. Boom. That's really a very nice improvement. But you should know that it was actually made for the mobile version of Odoo. So now to just highlight it, what I can do is open here, yes, my console, and what I can do is to switch now to my mobile view. I mean, that's something that you know, maybe some very known, mobile app, but if I just go here with my finger, which is in that case my mouse, and I just click a long time on it, I then just select it like this. And finally, I can select all of the one that I want, not like this. And yes, so let me do it again. Perfect. And then I can select it like this. So it's pretty convenient, very easy to be done, and very fast. Then what we wanted as well to bring as an improvement here is what we call the bottom sheet. So when I go and want to perform an action on my record, I get a small window appearing at the bottom, allowing me to directly select my actions. It's at the bottom, of course, it's easier than to select it with your finger. And here, for example, I can decide to export it as I did in my computer. This bottom sheet interface is the one that you also display when you click on the view icon here, for example. Or, for example, if you decide to do something like that, or to search by, or to group by assign to, like this. Well, no, it's well. I tried, but no, it's not the case. But you know, like that's something that happens on a lot of different places here in the interface. So that's really nice. Another shortcut, while I'm thinking about it, is the fact that from time to time you want to maybe open different tabs on your computer. You need to know that that's something that you can do by clicking on your middle mouse of your keyboard of your mouse to open all of the tickets in different tabs if you want to. Directly afterwards, you can then open them and see what happens. Okay, so we have for Richard Fernandez, as I said, some very positive feedback, except one. And on that feedback, actually, I don't have any details, so he did not comment anything. But for example, I see that on another one, it was very helpful, and this ticket was also assigned to Colonel Mustard. So it's pretty weird. What you can try, maybe to take a look at, is the historical data of this customer. I mean, for a customer to contact us with the help desk, he originally contacted us through a sales order. So now again, I just make a CTRL+K and access my orders in my database. Here they are. So what I see here is that Richard Fernandez has indeed a sales order created in the past. And if I open it, I see that we sold him like our best, or let's say our best seller, the Back to the Stone Age 6-pack. And if I go at the bottom and take a look at the chatter, okay. So it seems that Colonel Mustard made a few mistakes regarding the pricing here, and that he made a few communication, maybe with different sales orders. Maybe that could have disappointed my customer at some point. What I can do maybe, because I know that we changed quite recently the pricing of our product, is just maybe to give me a reminder. For that, I can simply, once again, open the command palette, type activity, and I can directly create an activity on my record. And there I just want maybe to check the price issue here. And I want to do it. You know what? Let's do it tomorrow. To easily set tomorrow here on my date field, what I can do is to make +1D. I'm going to select the day after then today because I make a plus. I can also play with something else, which is the equal. And for example, here I could put equal 9 months, and it's going to set it on the 9 months of the year, which is still September, of course, in that case. I could also make equal Tuesday, for example, and it's going to select Tuesday here of my current week. I could also decide to make plus Tuesday. In that case, it's going to take the next Tuesday in my calendar. So those are just shortcuts, but from time to time, it's still easy to see them and see how it can help to define some date. All right, so here I can save. Perfect. But still, this pricing issue is a bit annoying to me. What I would like to do is to update all of my prices in my database in a very easy way. Once again, you know the trick now. I can just access easily my products and there switch to the list view. For that, I can just use a shortcut. Perfect. Here you need to know that it's easier than ever to select record in my list view. For example, if I start selecting one of them here, previously I had to be very precise and to select all of my checkbox one by one if I wanted to select them. No, we don't need to care about that anymore. Once one of them is just selected, I can continue here and click anywhere that I want, and it will select all of my record like this. Another shortcut which is still interesting to note is that if I select this one and then make a shift and select this one, it's going to select, of course, all the records that I have in between. Okay, so here what we did is that since this month we applied a certain increase in my pricing, which results in, let's say, a multiplication by a factor 1.1. Now it's possible in list view to apply a formula in the way you mass edit the sales price, or any kind of decimal field, on your database or float field, by simply doing, let's say, multiply equal 1.1 in that case. Which means basically that you are going to multiply the current value by a certain factor. I just apply this, I go out, and then Odoo is going to tell me, okay, do you really want to apply then this factor to my sales price? In that case, I do want to do it. And here you see also at the bottom that some other operators exist, of course, as plus, minus, and division to operate with this kind of operations. I can update it, and boom, that's it. Okay, well, still, what we have is that here on my sales order, I don't have much information. The customer didn't complain. Actually, maybe he paid his invoice. So let's see that maybe. Let's take a look at the invoice of my customer. So here, I can come back and look at my invoices in my database. You need to know that, of course, Odoo is international, as I told you. So here, it's very something common to sell in different currencies in my database and to invoice in different currencies as well. For example, here for Lamina, where we sold 1 million amount, for back to Stone Age, but it was in lakh, of course, so a different currency because Lamina is located in Laos. And yes, so here we see indeed that it was applied at that moment. What we have is that now in the list view of my invoices, I have, let's say, a sum up which is performed, of course, in the currency of my main company, in that case in dollars. But I could want, for some reason, to see it in different currency as well. And that's something that you can do now by simply putting your mouse here over the question mark next to the amount, and you will see directly there is the corresponding amount in the different device currencies that are created in your, just activated in your company. That's the same, of course, on any kind of currency field. And so if I come back, for example, on my orders, where I was before, for now it is only dollars that are displayed. But if I remove my filter and make appear one of my order in lakh, I see that now my question mark has appeared. And so it allows me to see it because I sold in the past my order in a different amount, in a different currency, sorry. Okay, well, the invoice was accepted, signed by the customer. Nothing seems to be a very problem here. Maybe what I should do is just to discuss, actually, with my colleague, Colonel Mustard, and see what happens. So here, once again, I open my command palette, and I can simply add my colleague here, Colonel Mustard, and open the tab. So what I can do maybe is to ask him to have a call. So, hello, are you available for a meeting? And see what he thinks about that. Maybe what I can do as well is to, let's say, make sure that this problem doesn't happen anymore in the future. And for that, I could create a knowledge entry just to deal with some complicated situations in the future. For that, I can also press Ctrl+K and now make a question mark to access my knowledge application. I will create a new article like this and call it "How to deal with negative feedback. And now you need to know that in Odoo 19 you have access here to many different shortcuts that are pretty common in the HTML text editor that are well known on the market. For example, one of them is the double brackets here. When you click on space, then it creates a checkbox that you can use. And so, for example, here what I need to do is stop crying, call the customer, remove the Wi-Fi, something like that. What I can do also is, as another example, of course here it doesn't really make sense, but I can still use here my let's say quote icon, type some text, and close it, and it's going to display it as a piece of code here in my HTML. Also, you need to know that depending on the record you are on, the command palette is going to provide you with some different options. In that case, if I make a Control-K here, the first option that I have is to create a link. And so there I can just directly here add my link and say back to the Stonehead, which is my website.com, and yes, let's say guidelines. Perfect. Okay, seems good. My article is a bit complete. Now I want to share it, of course, with my with different users in my database. So for that, I can just move it here to my workspace. Okay, and now just check that it is indeed available for any for members only. No, I want it to be available for everyone. Perfect. Now it is done. Maybe one last shortcut is that if I come back to my helpdesk ticket in which I had my issue, which was actually the negative one, so it's in the solved, and it's here, perfect. I have that in my chatter. Let me just zoom out of my page because we see that we see it easily. But here is an icon allowing me to directly have access to all of my knowledge articles. So in that case, for example, Colonel Mustard can now just click on here and look for the negative feedback entries that he can get to know a bit about how to proceed in that case. Very easily then, you can come back to the record that what it was in just to proceed again. Okay, well, I mean, this is very interesting. We saw here a lot of tips and tricks, but still, we don't really have the solution to the case. I mean, from time to time, that's it. We cannot really find a solution. And oh, okay, I just received a new notification. Let's come back to my database. And yes, indeed, here I received a message. And actually, what I see, okay, Miss Scarlett tells me that Mitchell admin, well, she tags me and she tells me that the customer replied to us. Let's take a look. I gave a bad rating by mistake. Sorry for that. Everything was perfect. Okay, well, you know, no need to overreact. Thank you very much for your attention, guys. It was the last talk of the experience, as I said, and feel free to ask me any questions.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, by the way. Yeah, we have some time for questions. I think for the first one would be, can we actually create standalone activity from the command palette?
New activities? Is that what's the question?
Standalone activity.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Indeed. That's something that I wanted to mention as well. A new change in Odoo 19 is the fact that you can now create activities without having to link them to a specific record. So if let's imagine, start from here, and I just try to create and access, let's say, all of my activities in my database. You see that by default here, my activities are usually linked to a record. But now when I create a new activity, let's say from the main, let's say, activity page, I can, for example, put a reminder to pick up my kids from school, because if I don't create one, I might forget it, and put it today, or no, maybe not, let's put it on Monday, of course, because today there is no school. Okay. And what we see now is that the activity is not linked, to any record. So it's a standalone activity indeed. And here, if I click on my icon, I will see that it is part of the other activities section.
Okay, thank you. How did you open the records in different tabs?
Yeah, I did not maybe make it clear, but that's by clicking with with the middle click of your mouse. So from anywhere, actually in Odoo, you can, like you say, if I remove the full mode here, if I click on that, by just making the middle click of my mouse, I'm going to open it in a new tab. And I mean, if you ask people using a lot Odoo, that's pretty common to have many tabs open at some point for some reason, and that's something that we use a lot at Odoo to be efficient.
Okay, thank you. Is there a shortcut to select all the records?
That's a good question. If you come back maybe to the help desk here tickets that I was in, like one of the shortcuts that we have is that if I click here and select, so it wasn't maybe very clear for all of you, but if I click here and select all of the record in my view, then I will select, of course, all of them because it's the same as if I do it, with my mouse. By default, when you open a model like this, you can just, let's say, so let's do it again. So now, by default, you are in the search bar. If I click with my arrow, my bottom arrow, I will access then that option, and I can then select it by clicking on Enter. It's not really a shortcut, but something that you can do. Now let's try with the Alt. Now you see that so the Alt does not provide a direct here link to the checkbox, so probably that's the way to do it. But still, of course, it depends then if you have access, well, let's say, of how many records you have in your table. If it's more than 80, for example, then you may need to click again and select all the record again once you do it.
Next question would be in the mass edit, can I divide the amount?
Yes, you can. All right, there's something I want to test. Let's do it together. What happens if I decide to divide by 0? So here, okay, well, probably there is something that allows that brings it back to 0 automatically. But yes, you can divide. So it's really something that you can play with. So let's make something a bit more serious. Let's put it to 1,000 in that case. And now, if I come back to the price, let's do it again, like this, and divide it by 5, I will get back to 200. So yeah.
All right, perfect. In the total, which currency rate is used?
It's the one that you activated in your database. So here, once you, let's say, go in the menu currencies, you get access to all the currency that you can activate. So in that case, I have 3 of them, so it's going to be displayed in that case. Of course, it may depend on the records that you have. Okay, so if you don't, for example, on my orders, I did not sell anything in euro. It was only in dollars and in lakh. So I only see the conversion in the currencies that are used, and not the ones that are not used in my record.
Okay. Next question. We still have some time. Is there any way to undo mass edits in case of mistakes?
The thing is that if it's a mass edit, in which case like you modify the price to a value that is a complete new one. So for example, let's come back to my products. There, and I put it to 400, and I click and validate it. Control Z is not going to work. Okay, so you cannot really come back to it. Maybe if the field is tracked, you can in a way maybe make an import and then come back to the situation. But of course, if you decided to divide it by 2, but it was actually a mistake and you want to go back to the previous result, you can still multiply it by 2 again, and yes, and so you come back to the previous situation. So it depends on which kind of operation you perform, but according to me, if you edit it to a, let's say, a completely new value, you cannot really make Control Z to come back to what it was.
Okay. I think last question. Do you have a tip to directly find the according XML view of a report? Sometimes this can be difficult to find.
Well, a report, like a report's a bit specific, but maybe here let's come back and activate debug mode. Another shortcut. If you just make Ctrl K and debug mode, you can activate it straight away from anywhere in the database. In that case, the report, first I would go and look at the report menu and just find it again, for example, in invoice, PDF, and there, you get access to the views that are inside it, and then you can probably retrieve the information. What I think is a bit more tricky is that at some places, where you are somewhere in Odoo, you cannot really always find the view that is corresponding to it. For example, in the front end, when you are on the website, one of my advice there is just to look in the views by trying to track what is part of the view. Today, I helped a customer with that. So we looked for reported and the view architecture, which is basically the body of the view. And in that case, I was able to find exactly this one, like all let's say the portal view of the help desk tickets. And that's the way indeed, so just to refer to the content that you basically see on your view and you look in the view architecture to find it. So,
All right. I think that's it for the questions. I mean, do you have anything else that you want to share with the audience?
no, I think that's it. Thank you very much again, guys. And yes, and see you next year for the next Odoo experience.